Hey everyone, how are you? It's Miss Lisa, the art teacher. Welcome back to my table of art. I've heard that my drawing lessons might be boring you. Well, I don't want that. I want you to be happy. So I'm going to take a break from our little simple shapes drawing lesson, and we're going to do something a little bit more fun and a little bit appropriate for the time of year that we're in. We're in the fall season. If any of you haven't noticed, the leaves are changing, the colors are spectacular. Beautiful fall colors of yellow and red and orange. It's a great time of year for apple picking, pumpkin picking. So I thought, how about we make a landscape picture with a one-point perspective of a pumpkin patch and an apple tree. What's more fall than that? And you're going to be learning about drawing with your one-point perspective and having fun at the same time. We're going to color the image in using crayon because when we're done, I'm going to have you use a wash of watercolor to brush over the entire image, giving it kind of like a night, misty, eerie kind of feel to the picture. How's that sound? Does that sound a little bit more exciting for you guys? I hope so. I just want you to be happy. Okay? And listen, if there's things that you want to learn about specifically, tell your teacher and she'll tell me. I'm open for suggestions. You know, this virtual teaching is a little awkward for some of us. And I want it to be the best experience that I can make possible for you guys. Bad enough I can't see you, but I don't want to not see you knowing that you're unhappy with my lessons. So let's communicate through the teacher. Sound good? Sound like a plan? Sounds good to me. So let's get started. All right, you're going to need a couple of things. A piece of white paper. It could be construction paper. It could be printing paper. It could be newsprint. It could be whatever you want, so long as you have a piece of white paper to work with, okay? Could be bigger, could be smaller. This is a nice size. It's like your average size construction paper. I believe this is 9.5 by 11. You're going to need a pencil because we're drawing, and drawing requires a writing utensil. We got a number 2 pencil. No fancy pencil. No fancy dancy here. We're just using a number 2. We're going to use an eraser because we might make mistakes. And making mistakes are A-okay because that's how we learn. And I want you to get a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, that's okay too. Find something with a straight edge. Could be an envelope, could be the side of a book, because you're going to need to make some lines in our one-point perspective image of a pumpkin patch. All right? Now, of course, we're going to need watercolors because that's going to be our last thing we're going to do. We're going to watercolor over our image, a brush to brush the paint on, and a cup of water to activate the watercolors, and crayons to color in our image. So how about we get started? I'll grab my helping hand. Hello, Mr. Blue. How are you today? Oh, I'm just fine, Mrs. S. That was me talking in case you didn't know. And he also seconds as a back scratcher. But right now, I'm going to need him to pull that screen down so you can see what I'm doing on my table. So here I go. So I'll be right back. So don't forget me. Alrighty. So you should be able to see my table nice and clear of everything I'm doing. I have the black paper down so you could really see what's going on. First thing I'd like to do is use my ruler to create a horizon line. I currently have my paper in the position of a landscape. When the paper goes lengthwise, side to side, this is called landscape view. If I turned my paper in this direction, this is called portrait view, where it's taller than it is wider with a landscape view. We're working in landscape today. First thing we're going to do So we're going to put our ruler down a little bit above the middle. If the middle of the page here going across is here, we just want to raise that ruler a little bit. And I'm going to draw a line right across the paper with my pencil. You see that line? Do you know what that line is called? That is called my horizon line. Horizontal lines go side to side. In a landscape, this horizontal line is my horizon. From my horizon, I'm going to go right to the middle of this line and make a little dot. You see that dot I made on the horizon? That is going to be my vanishing point. This is where everything that we're looking at vanishes off in the distance. If we're looking at a house, it gets smaller and smaller as it goes back further and further. And it's our vanishing point. So on our horizon line, we have our vanishing point. Now here comes the ruler again. We're going to put our pencil on that dot and hold it in place, okay? And then we're going to put that ruler right up against that pencil. And now I could slide this pencil all around, making sure it stays at the vanishing point. The first line we're going to make, I want it to go off the side of the paper. Can you see the bottom? Yes. Okay. It's going to go off the side of the paper, just a little bit above the edge of the paper. Can you see here's the corner? We're going to raise that ruler up just a little bit. If I wanted it to go to the corner, it would be right there. But I want it up just a little bit. And here's my pencil waiting at the vanishing point. And now I'm going to draw my first line. Okay? That's what you should see right now on your paper. Let's put it back down. Put my pencil back on that vanishing point. And now I'm going to put the ruler on the other side of the paper and do the same thing. I want it to go off to the side, right about here, not to the corner of the paper, above a little bit. And I'm going to make my line from the vanishing point off like that. So this is what we should see now. Our horizon line goes right across the paper, our vanishing point, and we have two lines going off to the side. We're going to add maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we'll add 4 lines going off from the vanishing point. So here's my pencil. This is my first line. We've already made it. Now I'm just going to push my ruler in a little bit past that corner and bring my line down. See how I made that? I have one going off to the side and one going off at the bottom. Let's put the pencil back on the vanishing point. Here's the line we just made. Now I'm going to push the ruler in a little bit more and make another line going down. See how that goes? 1, 2, 3 lines. I'm going to put my pencil back on my vanishing point. Here's the line we just made. And I'm going to push my ruler in some more, maybe right about here. Make another line. You see that? Very good. Pencil back on my vanishing point. Lean the ruler up to the vanishing point. Line it up with the old line we just made. And now just rotate that ruler another line away. Oops, I moved my point. And make a line. Here we go. How does that look? Can you count the amount of lines we made? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I made 6 lines. Did you? Oh, you guys are funny. Counting the horizon line, that's 7. Very good. Okay, now, when things are close to us, they appear bigger. As they move further away, they appear smaller. So this is my entire pumpkin patch area. So I'm going to make a circle to represent a pumpkin. I'm going to go very light because I'm only positioning my pumpkins in each row of my pumpkin patch. So here's a big circle representing my first pumpkin. As I move into this section closer to the vanishing point, my pumpkins are going to get smaller. My circles are going to get smaller. And they're going to get closer together as well, because that's how they're going to appear, that they're closer. And I'm using a very light hand with my pencil so I can go back and erase if I want to make any changes. When you press really hard, it's harder to erase. So just sketch softly where you think you would like to place all your circles, which we will then go back and create pumpkins. So I'd like you to remember, at the edge of our paper, this is where the pumpkins are going to appear to be much bigger, because they're right up in front by us. Now you could go right off the paper with your pumpkin, because that's the illusion that this pumpkin patch is extending way beyond my paper. So I got a nice big circle there, another big circle right next to it, and then a medium-sized circle next to that. Then they're starting to get closer and closer, where they're almost going to appear to be overlapping, but they're actually not. It just appears that way because they're going so far back. You see how Miss Lisa did that? So we're going from larger circles to smaller circles, and smaller circles, and closer smaller circles, and circles that almost appear to overlap one another. Each row is part of the pumpkin patch. See, my pencil's going off the paper, and that's okay. They don't have to be perfect circles in the front. We could have them the illusion of coming off the paper. That's all good. That's a nice technique, as a matter of fact. Pretty smart. Okay, I'm going to pause this for 1 second because I'm sorry, but I let my dog out and he's scratching to come in. So hang on, I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back. I just had to let the dog in. Alright, I hope you continued making your circles. I hope you didn't just stop because I had to let the dog in. Yeah, those are the things you have to deal with when you're working from home virtually. Things like that pop up. Dog scratching on the door. Family members walking in, looking for things that they need. That's okay. We're safe, and this will all be over soon, so hang in there, gang. I can't wait to be together, though. Okay, here's all my circles. I made them very light, so it might be a little difficult to see them, but they all are going up to the vanishing point, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Some of them are off the paper in the front, giving the illusion that the paper and the field is continuing towards you. Okay? All right, what's next? Well, we want to add some things to our landscape. How about we add a haunted house in the background, or just a house of any kind, a barn or a house. So we'll start off with the basic shape. See, this is why I was teaching you about shapes, because shapes are the building blocks of all your images. Here's our circles, which will become pumpkins. Here's my squares and rectangles and triangles, which will become haunted houses. And there'll be lots of other shapes. So here's my haunted house. We'll give it a door. It doesn't look quite haunted, but... And I'll give it one of those rounded windows up at the top. What else could we give it to make it look haunted? Kind of like give a slope to the roof. That always makes a house look haunted, when they slope the roof. And then we'll give it a old chimney. That's too big. Yeah, that's all right. We'll leave the chimney there. And Here's the door, and the door will have a little window as well. How's that? Good? Okay. Now how about a fence for our haunted house? Okay, so we're going to have a nice fence going right across. So we're going to make some parallel lines. What are parallel lines? Two lines that are side by side in equal length. They don't have to be equal length, but they are side by side. Parallel. And we'll leave just a little bit of a gap in between. You see how I did that? That's the basis of our fence, these two parallel lines above the horizon line. Now I'm going to add the fence posts, which are just simple lines straight up and down. Although with a haunted house, I'm going to make some of them on an angle because that gives it more of a creepy feeling. If I make them real perfect and straight, it's not as haunted of a feeling as when we look at the image than if I made them crooked and on an angle. Now let's continue this fence right down along the pumpkin patch. So what do I need to do? I need to find my vanishing point. I'm going to put my ruler up against it, and I'm going to make the line for my fence. And again, it's a fence, so it needs two parallel lines, right? So I'm making two parallel lines. So my fence continues right down my paper. Again, I'm just making straight lines. The same way the pumpkins got smaller as they got near the vanishing point, so will the fence post lines. They're going to start out bigger, and they're going to get smaller and smaller and closer as we reach the vanishing point. Do you see how we did that? You see how long the posts are at the edge of the paper? And as we got closer to the vanishing point, the posts got closer and shorter. Okay? Very good. Now at any time, if you don't understand or I'm going too fast, this is the beauty of being in a video. You can pause me. You could even put me on mute if you don't want to listen to me. I'd be offended, but you could do it. Now the way we had a vanishing point from this point here, we're going to do the same thing right here at the door of our house. We're going to put a vanishing point here, and we're going to make a curvy walkway line. Now we need to make it look more like a path, so we have to add a parallel line, which we're going to do, and make it wider as it gets towards the edge or closer to us. Starts out small because it's far away and gets wider as it comes towards us. Very good. All right now. All right, so we've got something on this side of our picture, and we have this part of the field that's empty. What could we put in that area? I was thinking a tree. What about you? Do you think a tree would work there? I think so too. How about we put the apple tree here? But let's make it a little scarier. Let's just set the bases of an apple tree. This is going to be the base of the tree. This is where all the roots will stem from. And then the tree will reach up to the sky. He'll actually go right into the night sky. It's not that he is in the sky, it's just that he's closer to us than the background, so it appears like he's in the sky. I'll make this a little darker so you can see what I'm doing. I'm keeping it very simple for you. I'm making a tree that's very simple with these branches reaching up to make our apple tree. All right, now let's make this look a little bit more realistic now. Let's add some width to this tree and some actual roots. Make it look a little bit more realistic. Roots come out of the ground, some come up through the ground. make some wavier lines because the trees aren't all that smooth. They have waves to them. Give it a little bit look of texture. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a really creepy apple tree and make these roots appear to have fingers that are coming out and reaching out to me, which is kind of scary, don't you think? Look at those fingers reaching out to me. Oh, but it's really just a tree branch. Does that look spooky? And let's make a little reach over here. Let me try to erase these inner lines of my tree. And we want to erase that horizon line that's going right through my tree because the tree is in front of that horizon line. Okay, so now I've got a tree. Let's make that branch go off. And we want to add a little bit of our leaves. So we're just going to make some little ovals and circles. A little bit here and there. Fill in this area. This is where all the leaves are right now. Because we made it an apple tree. So we're not actually going to draw all the individual leaves. We're just going to fill it with semicircles and circles, which is giving us the illusion that there's all leaves on this tree. How do you like that? Just circles and half circles all around the branches, filling in that area. And then we could fill in some apples along the way. Make the apples rounder so we could tell that those are the apples. Maybe a little darker. So when we go to color, we know which ones to make our apples. Okay? Okay, now we've got our spooky haunted house. We've got our apple tree. We've got our pumpkin patch. Now let's work with the night sky. How about we set the moon nice and big above the pumpkin field and the house. And we want to give it more of an eerie evening. So let me make this darker so you can see. That's the moon. We're going to make a nice big moon. And we're going to make these clouds going through the moon. Long, thin, wavy lines to create some clouds. Can you see that cloud? I'll make some clouds going this way. And some going this way. Not as long. Can you see all my clouds? No, they're not dark enough. Let me make them a little darker. It's hard. And they're going to be behind the tree, not in front of the tree. Can you see the clouds now? And I'll show you this cloud over here in the moon. Okay? You know what else I'm going to put in that moon? I'm going to put a bat flying in front. So a bat is two upside down smiles with two triangles on the top for the ears and a V at the bottom for the body and some tiny little upside down smiles. There's your bat. You see my bat flying in the evening night sky? Looks creepy, scary, huh? And if I want another one coming up from behind him, I'll make him smaller. And you know why? Because then he'll appear to be further away, just like the pumpkins in the vanishing point. Does it look like he's further back than the front bat? That's another trick in drawing. All right, so I'll tell you what. I say it's time to color our pumpkin patch in. So you know what? Let's pull out our crayons because I think our image is done. And let's start coloring. I'm going to pause this camera because right now you're going to color your scene. This is where your artistic opinion and your artistic abilities come into play, your decision making on what color you want to make everything. And I'll meet you back here when I'm done with mine, okay? So go color your pumpkin patch. I'm going to color mine. And I'll see you back here in a moment. It'll seem like just 1 minute because I'm just pausing you. And I'll be right back. Guess what? I'm back already. I wanted to revisit this pumpkin patch. Come on down here and let's look at these circles. We need to create pumpkins instead of just circles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my darker orange crayon and I'm going to create a form that looks more like a pumpkin than a circle. And a pumpkin has lines that come down because they're like in sections how they grow. And I want you to do the same. Go back to your pumpkins, give them the lines that you see in pumpkins, change those circles into a nice form of a pumpkin. And remember, your pumpkin gets smaller as he goes back into the field. And remember that some of them start appearing to be overlapping each other as they go further towards the vanishing point. Curve with the pumpkin. Don't make straight lines on your pumpkin. You want it to look as realistic as possible. It is only a crayon, but we can make it look realistic. Just go with the curves. If I made a straight line, it wouldn't look much like a pumpkin or a curved pumpkin. And as artists, we want to give the illusion that it's curved. How's it looking so far? Pretty good, right? Very easy, this job, this project. And I hope I'm not putting you to sleep. That's my main objective. Here we go. Pumpkins, pumpkins everywhere. Oh, I broke my crayon. The Great Pumpkin by Charlie Brown. That used to be my favorite movie around Halloween. Okay, I'm going one row at a time. Remember, we're curving with the pumpkin so it looks realistic. Circles are getting smaller as we get closer to the vanishing point, almost till we can't even see. I got one more row. Part of this pumpkin is behind the other pumpkin, and that's good. That makes it even more realistic. Boy, color with crayons is hurting my wrist because I'm making it really dark, the outline, because when we use the watercolors over, we want that crayon resist effect. Okay. Whew, that hurt. So this is a pretty dark orange, and this is a lighter orange, and this is a medium orange. So when I'm coloring my pumpkins, I want to keep in mind that up in the sky up here, see this sky up here? This is the moon. You see how big this moon is? So if this moon is really big, that means there's a lot of light coming out of that moon being shed onto my pumpkin patch. So if that's what's happening, then wherever this light is hitting my pumpkins, it should be lighter orange than where the light is not hitting my pumpkins. So I'm pretending that it's hitting my pumpkins, and it's hitting them right on the tops of these pumpkins. See how the top is getting all lit up? The top of my pumpkins are all lit up by the moon, because that moon is so bright, and it's mostly on this side of the patch because it's coming down this way. So they're hitting the sides of these pumpkins. So I'm just coloring right over them, over those dark lines I made with my light orange, because this is where the light is coming in on my pumpkins. Look at that. Look at all this beautiful pumpkin patch. See, the light is coming. So this should be lighter on this side. Where the light hits your pumpkins, that's where you should have your lighter orange. But you can color it all one color. Of course you can. But I want you to see how Different values of one color can create a better illusion of form and realistic pumpkins sitting in a patch. Okay, now that was my lighter one. That's my darker one. And this is my medium one, which kind of looks just like that middle one. This might be a better one. This is good. Now I'm going to take this orange. Ooh, maybe this orange. Okay, let me take the darker orange. And I'm going to color the back of my pumpkins where the light is not shining so much. And I'm not pressing as hard as when I outlined the pumpkin. Okay? You see my pumpkins? Okay. I might add another orange in here. And you could do the same. Did I use the lightest one? That's the lightest one. This is kind of medium. Going right over some of these orange that I already did. Okay? And the last thing I want to do is I want to outline these pumpkins with black, because that gives it a really, really eerie feeling. Like a dark night pumpkin patch. Like, mwah! And when I'm done with this, I'm going to outline everything that I've drawn in this haunted scene to give it that more spooky feel. All right, I'll see you back in a little while, okay? I'm going to pause it again. Go color. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I think I'm done. What do you think? You think I'm done coloring? Why don't you look at a few things I did here? Notice I have the apple tree, and that moon is casting its illumination right on my tree, but it's also casting a shadow behind my tree. So I put a gentle shadow coming out from behind the tree. Also with the house, the moon is shining down on my house, and that's casting a shadow behind it as well. So I put that in too. Sort of like how we took into consideration that the moon is shining on the pumpkins and they're brighter on the top, but not as bright on the bottom where the moon's light is not hitting. So I think we're ready to paint. What do you think? All right then. How about I bring you down and see my table, and we'll get ready to do watercolor, okay? Here we go. Okay, what we're doing now is we're going to just use one of the paint pigments in our palette, and that's going to be black. We're just going to add some water to it to wake it up. Wake up, Mr. Black. Use the tray outside of your paint to work the watercolor. And next we're just going to brush right over our painting. And you see how it's resisting because of the wax and the crayon? But it's also giving us that eerie feeling of night mist and spookiness. Don't you agree? Look at how cool that looks. I'm scared already. Look at the effect the watercolor left on our crayon image. Pretty cool, right? Makes you feel like it's misty and nighttime. And spooky. Because Halloween is coming, and that's a spooky holiday. I like spooky, if you can't tell. But I won't watch horror movies. I'm too scared. All right, so the last thing we want to do is we want to mount our painting onto a nice color of construction paper. But being it's Halloween, I'm going to mount it on black construction paper. I need to wait till it's dry. But I'm going to center it right in the center of this big black piece of construction paper, because it makes it all the more dramatic when it's on a big piece of paper. And that's it for today. I hope I didn't bore you. I hope you enjoyed learning about one-point perspective using the pumpkin patch to learn about one-point perspective. And just to review, we've got the horizon line, which goes from one end of our paper to the other. The horizon line separates the sky from the land. The horizon line goes straight across. It's a horizontal line. The vanishing point is where all our lines meet. And they're closer, they're bigger. When it's further, they're smaller. Just like if you were looking down the street, the houses all the way down the street might look smaller than the house right next to where you are. It'll look bigger. There you go, boys and girls. Have a great day. I'll see you next week. I'll try not to be boring, and I'll try not to put you to sleep, and I'll try to make your lessons on drawing exciting, because I really want you to learn how to draw, because then you could go anywhere and draw anything when I teach you the basics. Okay? All right. You have a great day, and I will try as well. Ciao for now from Miss Lisa's Table of Art. Bye-bye. See you next week. Be good. Keep art in your life.